AITA for not paying for inflated energy bills anymore. My 46 cent, 45, our 2 children, 11, and I live with my mother-in-law, 73, who requires care. We live in her home, pay her to rent, and do everything for her, cooking, cleaning, tending to her many animals, etc. We both work shifts, so JTS hard, but we make it work since she wants to stay at home. In the meantime, my BL and his son, 29, live in an apartment that is paid for by my L. They have not a single responsibility when it comes to her care. My husband and I are both RNs, and this is something his brother takes advantage of because we know what to do. About a year ago, my BIL and his son tell her that the property they live on has been rezoned for condos, and they have to move. She moves them to her house with us. Her will is set, and she wants us to live on her property when she dies. It isn't really enough room for all of us, but we make it work. We did everything for those 2. Moron Jr. didn't even know how to open the garage door. They could not figure out how to use the washer-dryer, nor the dishwasher. I am not kidding. I could write a book on the disgusting, unsanitary helplessness there. Within the first 2 months, the energy bills tripled. We knew it was Bile & Co. because they ran every machine on every setting for everything and left lights on 24/7. Anyway, she didn't want us to say anything because they had to move for my sake, and so we let it go for 1 entire year. Last week, my sort of MIL blockhouse up at my husband about being 5 minutes late, letting donkeys out. Said some nasty, awful things to both of us, so we decided we aren't abiding this anymore. We gave BIL an ultimatum about bills. He's unemployable, and his son doesn't work or go to school, so he can pay them or move on. He's not paid a single dollar to her in about 10 years. Of course it comes down on us. If he goes, his mom makes sure we know it will be our fault, and all of us will wind up in a nursing home. She doesn't have enough to outright pay all her own bills without our help. And she will wind up selling the place and divvying out what she has among her kids. Will states that at death, everything goes to my husband and the both of them can do whatever they please. Here's my question. Should we pay the inflated energy bills? Their own mother acknowledges that it's them, so we both are not crazy. And it's because if their energy use that we're at DEFCON 10. I'm done with their disgusting behavior in the other ways, and this was just the straw. Our savings have dipped. BC, he won't help, and his mom gives him everything. More than once, we've caught them red-handed lying, and no one does anything. We are not in poverty, but it's getting uncomfortable to have debt with this shit too. AITA? Next story. AITA for fighting with my neighbor over my wedding? So I, 23F, spent my whole life wanting a big fancy wedding and a somewhat normal married life. After my husband, 25 Mij, and I were engaged, I learned I was a quarter Ashkenazi Jewish, realized I was Jewish, and went through a hell of a time processing that. Basically, after a year or so, and some conversion classes, I'm way more uncomfortably loud and proud about being Jewish than most born Jews, despite being too polite to actually correct folks on anything except converting. When you were born female with a Jewish grandparent. Even if actually you're born Jewish isn't easily true according to most Israeli rabbis. My husband had a very easy time of it because he realized he'd been raised mostly Jewish, kinda by accident, so we're Jewish. And when deciding about our wedding, we quickly find that Jewish weddings are the anti-bridezilla. We decided to focus heavily on doing things the Jewish way, including making the wedding a performance where you feed, mildly entertain, and don't leave your guests to starve on bread and wine while taking pictures. This wasn't very difficult, since it was cheaper than your typical bridezilla. There was King, have a lot of traditions to grab onto, and most others were still Jewish in origin anyways. The ceremony was easy and quick to get through too, because Jews invented the shotgun wedding. Love was somewhere down there on the list of reasons, so barely anyone mentioned it, and my husband wrote some beautiful vows he read before the ceremony while standing next to me. Now, the issue is that I had an argument with my neighbor over it afterwards. Basically, I decided not to show that I was angry at them before the wedding, which I absolutely was. Since they were pushing back on traditions and saying anti-Semitic things about whatever I said I wanted to do. I suppose they took this to mean that I had come to my senses and was going to have a normal wedding. After the wedding, they were very upset and said something along the lines of, they hoped this was just a phase, because you're supposed to just get the traditions from one of them, not both, and that we needed to pick one and wouldn't be considered valid by either. And I'm, embarrassingly, still surprised and upset at the small big old fight we had. That I definitely get why people usually disown family because of this shit and wish we could. I don't understand why I still want it to be okay. But I do. But I know I'm being unreasonable to expect them to be sorry or change at all. Next story. AITA for getting mad at my girlfriend for naming her car after an ex. This happened about a week ago, and she's still mad at me for this. For some context, I have always had a problem with the amount of exes my girlfriend 24F, let's call her Gina, has. She dated one of them, let's call him Kyle, for 7 years. I am her first relationship in college. Kyle treated her very badly. She constantly called him an awful person, and overall, just not a great guy. She showed me things about him on social media, and he isn't the best person. She also told me he was her first love back in high school. When Gina and I, 21F, moved in together, after dating for 3 years, we both got new cars. She was so excited that she said she named her car after this Kyle person. At first I was like, holy shit, it's him again, in my head. When she saw that I wasn't liking it, she told me it was because he was her first car in high school when she was learning how to drive. I got uncomfortable with the whole first thing. After a few days, I brought it up to her and how I was uncomfortable about the fact her first car was named after her first love. She, all of a sudden, got mad and told me it was because they had a brotherly friendship. And it was like naming her car a name like Goku. She's a huge anime fan. I thought that was a little weird. I mean, IDK about naming your car about an actual person you know. She still calls her car Kyle, not even by the car's actual name, i.e. Sunny the Sonata or Kia the Kia. She also said if he was here in person, she would get mad at me for treating him this way, despite her talking about how manipulative he was with her. One of her friends, who also knows Kyle from high school, said, "Oh, that Kyle," when Gina told her the name of her car over the phone. Gina always goes on and off about how Kyle is one of her only exes she stayed friends with, despite everything. She also said, in a petty way, for me to stop calling my toaster oven Tom. At the end of our conversation, she told me that I had no say in how she's naming stuff, which I respectfully understand, and that I have a problem to fix here. Now, I find it weird that Gina and Kyle text here and there. I just don't see the logic here. AITA? Next story. AITA for telling my housemate that she needs to deal with her roommate's habits and not expect me to deal with it. I, 22F, am a grad student who lives in an apartment complex that my university converted into student housing because they over-admitted students. It's essentially a luxury apartment, but with one person per room,